Hi everyone, and welcome to the HYPACK 2025 software webinar. Before we begin, I just want to remind you about the question box on the side of your screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit them using the question drop-down box. Also, if there are any issues with the screen or audio, you can message us in the chat box and we will try to fix the issue. So for today's webinar, we're going to show you all the new features and updates in this HYPACK 2025 release version. Our presenters for today's presentation are John Lindberg, QC Manager, and Caryn Zacharias, Tech Support Manager. They both bring great experience and expertise to our company, and we're very excited to have them here today to talk to everyone more about the HYPACK 2025 software release. And with that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to John and Caryn.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning from Middletown, Connecticut, where it's about a nice brisk 21 degrees Fahrenheit, which is probably about under what, -1 or something like that Celsius. My math isn't the best this morning, but thanks for attending. Yeah, today we're just going to go over a lot of the stuff that we've added in the HYPACK 2025, which was just released. We're just coming off of our HYPACK conference, pretty successful in Margaritaville.
Which was also chilly.
Yes, very cold. We had quite a few people there. Probably close to 400 folks attend to that show, if I remember. So, so we'll cover a lot of the stuff that we covered there at the HYPACK conference, and some other new things too. So let's get started. Okay, HYPACK 2025, if you haven't received an email, you can always sign up for email notifications, but we did release it on February 11th of this year. It's available to all folks that take advantage of the HYPACK maintenance plan. You get that for free, so anytime you're locked into the maintenance plan, you get free updates, you get free support, and all that kind of stuff. Just go to the website, go to www.hypack.com, go to the support drop-down window you'll see over here. When you click on that, you'll see the programs and updates button. You can click on that, and then under new releases, you'll see the HYPACK 2025 full install 64-bit. We don't really do a 32-bit anymore because if you still have a 32-bit computer, you might want to, move it to the 2020s and upgrade. And let's see, we also include all the updates reoccurring over the past year. We have our official release the beginning of every year, early. Last year's was actually a little bit earlier in January, end of January. And then we do quarterly updates. The Q1 is typically around April. Then we have every quarter after that, we have full installs or a very simple zip file that you can take and just copy over your current install rather than have to uninstall and reinstall, stuff like that.
It's very easy.
Yeah. And we'll discuss new features here, but every release has new features, enhancements, bug fixes, and so on. So it's always nice to stay up with the latest updates in HYPACK. Also, new devices. Every time a manufacturer comes out with a new device, we try to add that in or update to their latest firmware. So it's always great to be able to take advantage of the latest HYPACK software. Let's go to the next slide.
All right, so OpenStreetMaps. Previously, you were able to go into the Web Maps service and go and add the OpenStreetMaps. So we made it a little easier for you now. So all you have to do is go into your items list, background files, enable that dynamic OpenStreetMaps, and it's available in all of your projects. So wherever you are in the map window, they will start painting or drawing for you. Makes it very easy and accessible. You can use this in the main shell, in survey, and all the other editors that we have.
You should be able to plot that also as a background chart if you want. Comes in really handy when you're working somewhere where you have absolutely no idea of what's around in terms of charts or any type of background thing. So, you know, in case you need to create some plan lines on the fly or something, boom, you can bring up this chart simply by just clicking on the dynamic OpenStreetMaps item. And you'll notice that every project has this little checkbox under background file. So that gets loaded automatically. It just makes it a lot easier for you.
And then on that same lines, we have the Explore OpenStreetMap widget. So if you go to the widgets in that map window, you'll see Explore OpenStreetMaps, and that brings up another window where you can go to a position based on your XY, the latitude and longitude, or you can just pan around and zoom in and out as you wish. When you're satisfied with what you want, just hit that export map and you'll get a TIFF file.
Georeferenced.
Yeah, a georeferenced TIFF.
Okay. Another thing we added is this user-defined tools. You've been able to customize your toolbar for quite a long time by right-clicking on the toolbar or your icon bar or the menu items, I should say, and then do some modifications. But now you can add additional tools in here. For example, we've always had the tools drop-down menu in the main HYPACK shell, where you can add different HYPACK utilities and so on. We have a lot of either unsupported or undocumented utilities that people use, or we just throw in the release in case it might become handy for something. Or you might have a program that you like to use, a third-party software, maybe Notepad or something like that. You know, Word, be able to launch that from the HYPACK menu. So you can just go under Tools, right-click on the menu or the icon bar, and you'll get a customization window like this. In the example, I'm just showing that I entered this input echo program under the tools menu program. This is a party that we'll discuss in a little, a program that we'll discuss in a little bit. But you'll notice that it gets listed down here under the user tools. So I can take that, I can either drag it to whatever drop-down menu I want, or add it as a toolbar on the screen, as you see over here. Okay, so
be a button or in the menu, wherever you want it.
Exactly, yeah. So it just makes it a lot easier to launch other unsupported or third-party type programs right from the main HYPACK shell.
And then the TIN background files. So we've always been able to create a TIN file, a .tin out of TIN model, but we never displayed it. And I'm not sure why we never did that, but one of our customers, one of our users have said, why can't we just display that in the shell? So we thought that was a great idea.
Yeah,
Why not?
Yeah.
So all you have to do is in TIN model, load up your data and hit save, and you create this .tin, the TIN file. And now when you go back into your shell, you just go to the background files, load that TIN file, and then you can display it different ways. You have the points, you can set it based on the wire model, the solid model, which is all filled, and then it can be based off of the HYPACK color table. So really simple, easy, and gives you that 3D effect if you want to, because it's got the everything's in there.
Yeah, it's essentially a TIN is essentially just a HYPACK proprietary 3D model. That's you know, when you load up data into TIN model, you have the opportunity to save it, so you don't have to regenerate your TIN all the time. So somebody suggested, hey, why don't you draw that as a background file? It's like good idea. So we added it to the background files.
Yeah, and then S102 bathymetric surface models, they are now available to display in the shell. When you can also use the information tool, the query tool. So wherever you click around, you'll get the cell information, the uncertainty of that cell, and then all the attributes from it. So very easy to load in and look around.
And being a background file, you should be able to draw that as a background in any of your other program within HYPACK.
And again, based off of the HYPACK color table, so you can change however you want to see the colors.
We added this, we did this reorganization in the main shell, as most of folks that have used HYPACK for quite a long time realize that the shell's changed. It's still essentially the same, but a lot of the menus have changed over the years. And as we add new functionality, we add new right-click menu items, and it started getting a bit unwieldy. So we decided to kind of try to arrange things a little bit better, make it a little easier to find. Of course, people have been using HYPACK for a long time, might find it a little bit confusing, but theoretically, once you get used to it, everything's kind of organized based on the different option availabilities, whether it's for a specific file type or folder. So on the left here is the before view, where it's just kind of random stuff put in a list. On the right side is where everything is organized a bit properly.
And you also have that options. That's always been there, and I think people might have overlooked it a little bit. Where you can go when you've loaded files in, you can refresh, rescan. It's still there, but then there's some other options in there. The export to Google Earth, but it's more for everything, right, rather than just specific to that type. Yeah. So
a specific folder, yes, kind of a global option.
Yeah,
that
cool.
You just click on Google Earth, and you get a list of items that you can actually export to Google Earth.
And then you can also see, I mean, this has always been there, but like folder visibility, just if you don't use certain things and you want to kind of clean up your display, your viewer, you can just hide things.
Yeah.
And then bring it back if you want.
Right. And then per customer request, somebody requested to be able to add yards to a list of selectable units in the drop-down menu for the measure tool. Hard to believe that anybody outside the U.S. is using yards. I mean, I don't think many in the U.S. use yards, but apparently it is common with certain agencies. So we've added that per customer request.
All right, and then to the Esri export options. So we can load up the Esri TIFFs, and now we have the option to export to an XYZ or to a matrix file.
Yeah, an Esri TIFF is basically what the RGB value is.
The decimal depth value.
With a depth value, so we can color the TIFF file based on the depth. And auto, I believe you can do the auto scale colors and so on. And now we have the option, just if you want to take that and export out to XYZ, or just export it to a HYPACK filled matrix file.
A lot more flexibility.
Definitely.
Oh, this here in support we like, because we constantly get calls. Well, not constantly, but we do get some calls, which was enough to say, hey, we really need to do something about this. If you don't have a project loaded, everything's grayed out. And so we get calls being like, hey, something's wrong with my HYPACK. It's all grayed out. I can't do anything. And normally we're like, hey, do you have a project loaded? And they're like, oh, how silly of me, but not to worry, we get that call from a few times. So, and it was enough that we said, hey, no project is loaded. So it just kind of gives you a little heads up that just check your projects, and once it's loaded, everything should be enabled for you. The other one was no license found. So now we have a pop-up that will say that the license isn't found or detected. So you can go in and verify that either you're doing the soft license and actually it is activated, or you actually have a physical key and it's not plugged in, or maybe something's wrong with the key. So it just gives you a little pop-up saying, hey, we need to do a little check here. And hopefully that will help you out a little bit troubleshooting, so you're not having to troubleshoot too much. The other thing was the ENC charts now launches a confirmation dialog box. So if you can see how many charts you're downloading, because sometimes you're probably downloading a lot, depending on where you are, or how zoomed in or zoomed out you are.
That's it.
And if you hit and say download, 200 charts, maybe you don't want to do that. So it gives you a little confirmation of what you're downloading, and you have that choice to say okay or cancel.
Yeah, before it was somewhat blind that, if you're zoomed out way too far, you can be downloading literally hundreds of the ENC charts, and you'll watch your computer kind of chugging away there for about an hour and realize I shouldn't have clicked on that button. So now you have the ability to cancel it. Okay. Geodetic parameters, we did it's a little minor thing, but it saves a lot of hassles and everything. The datum shift file, if you're in a place where you're using predefined grids and it requires a datum shift, typically anytime that you're not using WZ84 as an ellipsoid, it requires that. So the datum shift file, it's a drop-down menu that's reading all the LLS and the GSB files that are in the datum folder within HYPACK. And what we try to do is organize based on the location. So for example, in the US, if you choose a state plane, you'll just have the options that are specific to the US state plane options, the coordinate systems, I should say. UK, I believe it's just going to show the OSGB and so on. The Australian ones are going to show what's available for Australia and so on. So it makes things a little bit easier, to organize and to view rather than accidentally selecting or just looking at the menu and saying, I have no idea what I'm supposed to select here. So
it's nice clean.
Yeah. We've also updated. We've added the EPSG options a couple years back, and we update the EPSG codes as soon as we get them. At the time of release, the version 11.029 was out, so we're up to date with those codes. And then also specific for Australian customers is the prevents auto loading of the GDA 2020 datum transformation file. By default, it was loading up to the GDA 2020 GSB file, which would be problematic depending on what they're selecting with the NTRIP for their corrections. So sometimes if it was loading that and they're already applying the datum shift corrections in their base station, then it would be double correcting. And it got a little bit confusing. And it's still confusing to a lot of people when you're dealing with ITRF and so on. So, if you have questions, you know where to find us.
All right, and then we now are doing some Dredge Pack and Multibeam. Wait, this one's not that one, sorry. Users can convert the MXB matrix backup files right in Survey and Dredge Pack. So before you would have to close out of Survey or just go back to the shell and convert your MXB to MTX. These are the backup matrix files. Now you can just stay right there in your HYPACK Survey or your Dredge Pack and click the matrix, convert MXB to MTX, and find them. These are all in the archive folder. They get stored in the archive folder. You might not even have known that they existed. I know I didn't know they existed back in 11 years ago when I started here. So if you are experiencing when something crashes or something like that, and you're lost your matrix file, it's not really lost. It's most likely in your archives. This is set by default. It used to live under the navigation parameters, but it did get moved, I want to say last year, under the matrix options now. So when you click on matrix options, you'll see a matrix backup time. The default is set to 15 minutes, but you can change that. If you set that to 0, these will not get created. So just know what you're doing if you're going to set that to 0. Or you can set it to 30 minutes. And again, they're all stored in the archive folder and you can recover anything.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be used, it was primarily used for Dredge Pack back in the day when we had a lot of customers, you're prone on a dredge to power failures and whatnot, things getting unplugged or wires getting broken and stuff. And, so backup time set to say 15 minutes or so, the most you're going to lose is 15 minutes of matrix data, which on a dredge is not that much. You can set it to a bit quicker, but you're just going to get more and more MXB files. Yeah. So again, if you don't find it necessary and you're concerned about backup space and stuff, you can just set that to 0.
Yeah. The other thing we did, the newer survey program, we kind of went away with the arrow for your left-right indicator was very small. And we had some customers saying, I can't see it. So we decided to, why not let the user have the ability to change whatever they want. So now we have that chevron or the bar, I guess chevron or arrow, yeah, and then the solid bar, and you get to choose whether you want it thin, medium, or wide. So it just gives a little bit more flexibility to the customer so they can see it.
Okay, and device drivers. We've got a lot of device drivers in HYPACK. You know, we have hundreds of device drivers, and these are just a few of the things that we've done over the past year. There's a few bug fixes and stuff too, but these are the primary ones that we've worked on. And some things are kind of odd, like very specific, but they do come in handy. For example, the top one is the GPS DLL, where there's an option to that we've added to ignore the ZDA date. The ZDA is your timestamp that you use for time tagging and synchronizing the computer clock. The ZDA contains the dates in it. And on older GPSs where maybe the internal battery is failing, the date will get reset back to some, whatever it is, 1980 or who knows, one of those weird dates. So all of a sudden your data files are, your live files at 1980 date and so on, and you might be wondering like what the heck is going on here, and it's basically just a quick fix for you probably certainly want to upgrade your GPS and get that fixed, but if you're out in a pinch out in the field and you don't want to be using that date, especially if you're doing stuff like post-process stuff, you want to make sure that's right, so you can ignore that and it'll just use your computer date, your computer clock date.
And then we have a new, just read for the AIS Tide, now reads the VDM and the VDO messages. With the POSMV, we added back use the group 1 codes. We took it out because we didn't think people were using it.
We didn't find it necessary, but
apparently it was.
Yeah,
so we brought it back in.
And some of the systems with for airborne and LiDAR and stuff that we typically tell the customer to use the group 102, but those systems that don't have heave sensors, I believe, don't have a group 102. So we've added the group 1 back in. The EchoTrack E20, we've added some user mod where the user can actually modify the annotation string. Not many people are using the annotation as much as they used to when they had the paper rolls, but this has been another customer request. So you can go in there and choose, for example, the time, the event number, XY, the depth, depth 1, depth 2, and so on as part of your annotation string. So you can customize whatever you want to have sent to your annotation.
And then we've got the Orion 2. We've had an Orion driver, but now this one's the Orion 2 for the optimal ranging Orion. This is all for pipe and cable detection. So that's been added.
The Subbot DLL, we're supporting the Geoacoustics Geopulse compact sub-bottom sonars. So that's available in the latest Subbot in case you're doing some sub-bottom work in HYPACK and you want to use that one. The Spectral AI is specific for the Klein does these spectral AI targets where they're using AI to detect, to do target detection and in their software. And basically this driver, once they detect and mark targets in their software, we can read those targets. It's basically a JSON format, I believe. And once that's populated in the folder, we'll detect it and mark a target in HYPACK survey, which is kind of cool.
And then the MavLink, so we have the MavLink driver and then a MavLink 2 driver. The MavLink driver was just reworked a little bit. So there's a drop down for selecting the manufacturer instead of buttons. And then the MavLink 2 supports the V2.
The version 2 of MavLink. So cut fill DLL, we've added Tide source options in there, a source being from whichever mobile you have selected. And that had been an issue on specific dredges. So yeah, we're talking, the bottom ones here are all dredge specific.
Yeah.
So mobile connect DLL is basically this very simple driver that connects essentially a line or a polygon between two mobiles to kind of, give the effect of like a ladder or a drag arm or even a towfish, for example. We've had color and transparency selection options for the outline and the fill of that polygon that's created between the two mobiles.
And then the excavator driver we just added the smoothing channel option. So before it was kind of like a stair step. Now it just kind of draws a straight segment instead. And then the Hopper DQM added the pass-through mode checkbox in the driver. And then DQM mechanical, we did add the CD17, which acts as a mode bus master to get that crane slew, the boom angle, and the wire length from the sheave. So, and then we added templates to the driver profile window.
Yeah. So now you have multiple depth templates, and you can change the color of those accordingly to whatever you want to see in your profile.
Input echo. So input echo, we added that about 5 years ago, and it was brought about because we wanted to log some raw data from the SVG. We also needed a way to share the SVG, which was coming in on a COM port, and we wanted to share that COM port data.
That was with the ellipse, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Because it was specifically, I think there was one USB input.
It was a USB input, and we needed to share that. So we created this input echo, which would allow us either to send out another COM port or via the network. So we only had one output. So we had one input, one output. So we decided to make some changes. I mean, it was very well received. People are using it. So we made some more changes to give it a little bit more flexibility. So you have that input, and now you can have up to 8 outputs. And this can be via serial, it can be for network, it can even be a text file. And the text file allows you to collect the raw information and post-process it. So if it's an SVG, it's basically like you're getting the true heave from an SVG, and you can post-process that bin data. Very flexible, and just one note too, it's not actually within the shell of HYPACK. So maybe it will be down the line because I think more and more people are using it, but it resides in the C drive HYPACK folder.
Yes.
So if you do want to use that, like we were talking about earlier, the customization, and you want to add it to the tools dropdown, you have that flexibility as well.
Okay, HYSWEEP survey, a dredge mode, right? We've that's been the big buzz thing over the past year now, is adding a Multibeam on to a dredge. So we've put this option in the matrix options, this dredge mode checkbox. Basically, what's to do is it's passing the Multibeam information to a dredge pack matrix file. So we're able to paint the matrix with the measured depth coming from the Multibeam. So that's something available in 2025. We've also added, and when you check that box, you'll notice in HYSWEEP, when you're running along dredge pack, it'll say HYSWEEP dredge mode, just to verify that you are painting the dredge pack matrix. We've also added the invert depths option over here too. Inverts depth values for people that are working in need an elevation type matrix in elevation mode, where depth is negative and elevation is positive. I think I got that right.
Yep. And then the auto scale profile. So this comes in handy as well. We have gotten calls in the past where they're collecting the Multibeam data, but they're not painting a matrix, and their profile window is empty, and they're wondering what's going on. Well, normally that means that they're just off the scale. So like either your depth is wrong, or you're even narrowing your beams or something. So now this allows you to automatically scale the profile, so you shouldn't have that issue again where you're losing your matrix painting or losing the profile window. So
yeah, it zooms when you're the sweep profile, the sounding points, where before, and it's still this way with the beam pattern, where it's always showing the minimum is the location of the transducer, right? But you can zoom in where it'll just zoom in to the actual min-max depths points in the screen if you're using the sweep profile, or the sounding points as we see here.
And you'll see that it says auto scale on the profile window too.
Yeah,
so it gives you a little
Right. If you want to go back to the old one, you can simply just uncheck
uncheck.
that and go back and enter your min-max steps. The side scan altitude window, this was added to HYSWEEP survey also. It's a window that's available in side scan survey, but we have folks that are using Multibeam and also towing a side scan where you can load up your side scan device in HYSWEEP. Well, they wanted to be able to view the altitude window specifically for the side scan. So now we have the altitude window. You could go in, load it up under the view, new window, altitude window in the HYSWEEP survey main program. And in the window, you'll have your devices listed here. So if you've got a, your Multibeam or your side scan listed here, just hit the drop down and choose your side scan, and there's your altitude window.
And then in real-time cloud, so we've always been able to see targets, but they were much larger than you wanted. So now we do have the flexibility to change the target size, and then also we added some other styles. So it's not just the point or the cylinder. We can do a circle, flag, or a multi-beam, type.
Yeah.
And then another for real-time cloud, now you can see the water column display as well. So just enable that water column in HYSWEEP, then you'll see water column display option in the real-time cloud settings, and then you'll be able to display that.
Yeah, so you get the water column profile as we see here on the screen, along with your sounding points coming from the Multibeam. Pretty cool.
And then the SBMax 64. We've always shown when people delete a point, we do those little asterisks. Now people have complained, or not complained, but they've said, hey, when I export out my XYZ or something from here, I'm getting all of that. So I would just want a nice clean option without having to edit it. So we now have that checkbox to say hide deleted. And then you can export out your soundings however you want.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, SBMax. Okay, some other changes to the, again, the SBMax 64 is our 64-bit single beam editor. We have a couple windows that we've added from the old one. Offline statistics is one, but when it never differentiated between depth 1 or depth 2 when it was calculating the stats. And this can vary based on the location of those transducers, especially if they are separated, which is available with some of the device drivers. So now you can pick depth 1 and or depth 2, which will affect your offline stats. The echogram window has a couple options for exporting. You'll see an export button, I believe it is, on the echogram window. Should have done a screen capture of that. Oh well. And you can do it. We've had the ability to do the text output of the samples. Saves out to an ASCII a text file, and also you have the option to do an image of your echogram. Save that out to a JPEG, and then they have the option to select depth 1 and or depth 2. And whether you want to export just the current line or all lines.
And then we also added the multiplier in the save options of SBMax 64. So some people had requested this. It makes it easier if you just put a -1 if you want to invert your depths. If you had a different, like you've mentioned in the past, we've had some other
using
systems.
like a generic echo sounder type driver where they might have set the multiplier incorrectly and collecting the data. So now you have the ability to fix that. Yeah, reset your multiplier.
And then we've got SB selection. So we added the option to include that first point, include the last point, as well as doing a gate at the start and the end of the line. Then you can still set your distances like normal. You could even put them in max, but we just added those additional start and end gates and making sure you can actually include those points.
Yeah, in this example, you can see where the start gate is located, right? You don't have, the idea of this SB selection, if you're not familiar with it, is that it just it has the ability to save points based on a distance along that profile. And so with the start gate, for example, this is set to 200. So anything within the first 200 feet or meters is going to be eliminated, unless you check, of course, the include first or last point. And this works the same with the end gate too. So in this case, we're eliminating the first 200 feet or meters, and then the last 200 feet or meters on the screen here. So it's collecting all the other stuff, but we did enable the first and last point in this example. So nice little feature for SV selection if you're using that program. Yep.
And then the Multibeam editor in MBMax. So we've added, or the KMall and the all files now calculate RTK tides based on your geodetic parameters. We've also updated that filter preview button in the search and filter options. So instead of saying filter preview, it actually just says filters.
Yeah.
So
a little confusion. Yeah.
And then the apply the grid conversion checkbox, that is now enabled by default. And if you don't know much about the grid conversions, it's really for your heading. So the difference between the true north and grid north.
Grid north, right.
So in the past, if you went and collected your patch test in one location, is this normally like, it came about really with the payloads or the LiDAR systems where you went and patched in one location, but then you went somewhere, like if you were here in Connecticut, but then you went somewhere on the West Coast or something, the headings could be completely wrong because you don't really have to do another patch.
Right.
So by checking on the apply grid convergence, that applied the correct grid north, and so everything is good there now. But once again, this was the apply grid convergence was added back in 2018, I think, something like that. So if you've processed data previously or have a patch test that doesn't have the apply grid convergence, you don't want this checked on now when you're processing your data. So just make sure you know, and you can go into the when you're in MBMax 64 and you click on the one of the buttons.
The read parameters under the last tab, and then there's a sonar processing button where you go and select your ID, your ray tracing method, and if you know.
And you'll be able to see that by going to the sounding option too, like in your one of your windows, you'll see that if there's a grid convergence value there, that means it's been applied.
Yeah.
So.
And I believe new projects will have that checked automatically, but old ones, if you didn't have it checked, it'll stay unchecked. Okay. Here's a new option for HYSCAN, or we're still calling it HYSCAN Beta, which is our newest version of HYSCAN. We still have the old one in there if anybody continues to use it, but this will probably replace the old HYSCAN completely. I'd say either the next quarter or the next release. But anyway, segmentation is an option where it's basically grouping and contouring areas with similar return intensities. It kind of aids in the bottom classification. Of course, you still want to do some kind of ground truthing and so on, but it's compatible with all side scan sonars, compatible with backscatter data exported from HYSWEEP when you save out your HS2X file. You got it's the HS2X saves the intensity information or snippets or what have you.
Anything that has an intensity value,
basically,
will be able to do this calculation.
Yeah, so when you get to the Mosaic tab, you'll see there's a little option in here. It says contours. When you click on that, it brings up a little window that looks similar to this, the contour options. So you can kind of create your different layers here. You give them a name. You have a little eyedropper tool where you would click on, I got a screen here, I guess not, within your scan view, the side scan imagery there, and you just choose that color. And then you assign a color you want for that DXF contour. So once you do all that, you click on make contour. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said that make XYZ first, is that you can save or generate a XYZ file that's being used for contours. So you don't want to use all the data because your contours will look really ugly. So it's basically a sort routine that thins out the data. Okay, so once you make your contour, it'll generate a contour similar to what we see here on the main screen here. And then also it's going to create a color file with those different levels. And our color editor also has the ability where you can just go in and change those labels now. So, and then display those in the main shell too. So
the thing to note here is all user configurable, and HYPACK is not actually automatically classifying anything.
exactly.
It's just utilizing the intensity values, and then you have the choice to say what intensity value you want from here to here, and then labeling it. But definitely, like, as John said, you'll want to do some ground truthing to verify all these.
Yeah. Okay, and then target editor, we were working with client with the spectral AI stuff, more importing of their targets. We have the option too, you know, if you're not running survey program, if they have detected a bunch of targets, we can import those JSON files directly into our target editor. You just select the folder and it'll import those targets in addition to any of the imagery, saved bitmaps. Will be added to the target in the target editor. Go on.
All right. Now, Absolute Ocean, this is an add-on additional thing. So if you are interested in Absolute Ocean, you'll want to reach out to our sales team or go directly to TerraDepth. It's a way that we can put all the data up in the cloud. So we can now push that data or pull it back down and utilize it that way. So.
Yeah, they have the nice imagery here. So you could go under Utilities, File Work, Absolute Ocean Integrator. It brings up a window like this where you just choose your HYPACK project, your Absolute Ocean project if you want to do so also. Upload or download data. You can synchronize between the two programs, and you know, you get the nice imagery as displayed in the background here from Absolute Ocean. Anything good? Okay.
HYPACK Max. So we now can actually click on certain windows and actually click zoom to extents. Before, it was giving you a little bit of frustration because I'd go click on a zoom extents and it would zoom everything.
Yes.
So now we have a little bit clearer options in there.
Yeah. Before, zoom extents might zoom to it, an S57 chart rather than you can go and pick your plan line area and zoom into that specific area or to a matrix. Just makes it a lot easier, a lot more manageable in HYPACK Max, especially when you have multiple sheets like you see on the screen here, that you just highlight whichever map area that you want, then choose the item that you want to select, right click on that and zoom extents.
Tin model. So I don't know why we never did this before, but tin model was all depths. So now we actually have an option to pull either depth 1 or depth 2 from your single beam file and a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, if you're using a system like a multi-transducer that writes ECM records, or Sontec M9, where there's 5 depths at a time, you have the option to use all depths over here too. So just gives you a lot more flexibility. Yeah, before for some reason we were always including depth 1 and depth 2 when with a dual frequency. That's when, of course, when you're loading a log file. Most people use an XYZ file, so we never really thought about it, but we have a few folks that wanted to do the log data, and they were noticing that they were getting both depths.
Everything.
So we made that flexibility available.
All right, and then more utilities. If you're not familiar with the Geodetic list converter, that is an easy way to convert a text file or an XYZ that has a different format for you. Or if you want to go from XYZ to a latitude and longitude, bring that in. But now we actually have options where you can invert the depths along with converting from meters to feet or feet to meters, or just inverting. So, the data converter, we did add a checkbox for the JSF to actually be on the towfish. This just gives the draft on the towfish, I should say, so it can read in the MBES 64.
Yeah. Before, I believe it was treating it as a tide value, so you weren't getting the proper elevation. So now it's actually saving that value as a draft value. And then we had some S7K options. Use extra detections if available, and also downsampling. Certain systems, I think, we were downsampling for, we were limited with the old HYSCAN program. With the HYSCAN beta, there is no necessity to downsample. So if you check that box, it'll save the HSX file, I believe, to include all the samples where, you know, we're not decimating the data at all. Keep in mind that you can't load that in that file into the old HYSCAN program. Then the ADCP profile, we had an option to load up your data and save added save to XYZ, so you could directly output the XYZ bathymetry data from whether it's the HYPACK files, ADCP files from those are the RDI files, SONTEC file formats, and everything too. And then you can choose the depth reference, whether you want to do the bottom track value or the vertical depth, which is some of them have the 15 in the center there.
And then documentation, everything that we have is stored in our HYPACK 2025 folder under documentation. So you have all the common HYPACK drivers, anything for Multibeam or HYSWEEP drivers, interfacing notes, side scan notes, everything that we've released. We have that, the release notes for right now, and then the actual manual. So if you're questioning or have any need for any notes, it's right there.
Yeah, usually in the documentation folder, even the quarterly updates will have specific items to that quarter. You know, we try to update at least the
release notes.
Yeah, maybe the common HYPACK drivers if we have some new stuff, but mostly the release notes. We have an additional spreadsheet in there too that shows all the updates, whether it's bug fixes or new features and so on. So kind of get down to the nitty gritty. One word of caution is if you open up that HYPACK release manual, if you're thinking about printing it, make sure you buy a lot of reams of paper because it's probably a couple thousand pages long at least, I say. So there's a lot of information there.
And then the Sign and Better newsletters, we do this quarterly or for releases. So if we have all the archived ones from the past years, and then the newest and latest is under the newsletter one. Yeah,
every release we try to update the Signing Better newsletters. But yeah, it is quarterly now, right? And you'll find a lot more information on some of these newer features. The folks get more in depth on how they work and some of the other options.
The programmer writes it, the tech support writes it, so you'll get a little bit more information. And they're easy searchable on our website.
Yeah, when we're talking about the newsletter archives, there's always some information, older information that's still pretty pertinent in there that you'll find that we still reference.
Yeah, we do.
So there's quite a lot of information up on our website available to you.
And then training opportunities. We've actually got a intro to HYPACK training going on right today and yesterday. So that's happening. And then we've got a Dredge Pack training course and volumes course here in Middletown the first week of March. But yeah, go to that QR code and take a look at opportunities coming up. The rest of them are virtual right now, but you still have options to do trainings at your own facility too. So just let us know. And then on that, we have the certification exam. So click on that scan that QR code and you can go directly to the test and get certified. So we have the HYPACK certification exam and we'll be coming out with some more like some dredging and dredge. Yeah, we did a Multibeam one and then we'll be doing dredge.
And then yeah, get your camera ready here. You got a lot of QR codes for following us on social media, getting the newsletter and so on. So yeah, LinkedIn, YouTube, the newsletter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And that's pretty much it for the presentations. Now we have the Q&A section. I don't know if we have any. Yeah, we're running a little short here.
Last Brittany.
So thank you, John and Karen. That was a great presentation. We have a couple minutes to answer some questions. If your question does go unanswered because we have run out of time, someone from HYPACK will follow up with you.
Mhm.
So with that, you guys can start the Q&A.
Okay.
Well, we have here, do you support state plane coordinate systems 2022?
Yeah, SPCS. At the moment, no. We will get involved with that as soon as it's becoming a bit. That might be mandated. Again, it's 2022, and it's. When they planned on implementing it, and it's 2025 now. They're still, I think, behind a bit on that. I'm sure once the Army Corps districts start mandating that too, and GS and NOAA and all that, we'll be popping that right into HYPACK. We're also toying with the idea of maybe not moving, but giving another geodesy option where we add a third-party geodetic engine for some of the more complicated type geodesy projections and grids and so on. So you might see that in the not too distant future too.
Let's see.
What else do we have here?
Because there's do you plan to export or create the S102 background charts? So now that you can display them. And I would say that we're looking into that. As of right now, that was not, it was just to get them to be displayed first.
Yes.
But not create yet. So.
Right. We're actually going to also add sun illumination to those charts to sun illumination and the possibility of maybe there's an S104 tide level section 2. So you'll apply that or even manually enter tide values so you kind of get an idea of the bathymetry at specific water levels.
All right, one that just came in, we have a hardware dongle. It sounds like there is a soft key option. Does this require a network connection? So the soft key, you can activate it online or offline. So once you're offline, you can be offline for up to 90 days. And it's a rolling 90 days. So as soon as you connect to the internet again, it will restart that 90-day offline activation. So you don't actually have to have a network connection. We do recommend for activating and deactivating that you do connect to the internet, but it's not necessary. We do have an offline activation option.
Yeah, not necessarily be online all the time.
Yeah. So once you activate it, you can be offline for the 90 days. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Is HYPACK thinking of supporting IHO S104 tide files? Yes, I believe that's definitely that's in the works.
Okay, guys, we are unfortunately out of time. But again, we want to thank John and Caryn for a great presentation, and we all hope you found it beneficial. Don't forget to go register for one of our training opportunities, and you can visit our HYPACK website to do so. We want to thank everyone for their participation and hope you enjoyed the webinar today. Everyone will get a copy of this presentation, and we will be in touch with anyone who had unanswered questions over the next week. Also, please don't hesitate to contact us. We can be reached at sales@hypack.com. And don't forget to check us out on social media and sign up for our newsletter so you get all of the upcoming news and features and updates. So we hope to talk to you soon and have a great rest of your day.